Recently, the Biden administration announced that the Justice Department would defend in court a federal statute preventing Puerto Ricans from receiving Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, benefits, which are designated to help the elderly and the disabled. Despite the fact that Biden has called on Congress to allow Puerto Ricans to access these benefits, he insists that it is his job as president and it is the Justice Department's job to enforce laws, even laws that they don't like. And for as much as there's been public outcry over this, it is far from the first instance of the U.S. treating Puerto Ricans essentially as second-class citizens. Ever since the U.S. first colonized Puerto Rico and it became a territory in the Spanish-American War, the reason that the U.S. wanted Puerto Rico in the first place was because they saw it as a chance to flex their global power and station military bases there. Also, they viewed its warm climate as beneficial to helping to grow the sugar industry there. Even today, however, Puerto Rico is crippled by poverty, and the U.S. has done little to help them. Even today, 70%, quote, about 70% of the net domestic income generated in Puerto Rico leaves the island. It is treated as an economic enclave, and they bear the brunt of economic disadvantages, and the U.S. capital outweighs Puerto Rican capital there. Recently, an example of U.S. mistreatment of Puerto Rico came in the form of their response to Hurricane Maria, where the effects still linger on Puerto Rico to this day. Compared to Hurricanes Harvey and Irma, which hit Texas and Florida, Maria had the highest sustained winds out of all three of those hurricanes, yet it received the least amount of meals, water, tarps, and federal workforce stationed there to deal with the impacts of it. The Trump administration was found to have mismanaged funds for it and blocking investigation into why they were blocking Puerto Rico from receiving funds. And in fact, Housing and Urban Development officials said that they knowingly, quote, knowingly missed the congressionally mandated deadline to issue a notice that would have blocked billions in federal recovery funds to Puerto Rico. And President Trump said he did not want money going to Puerto Rico, instead wanted it to spend more money on aiding the hurricanes that have devastated Texas and Florida. And while Congress did approve $20 billion in housing and urban development funds for Puerto Rico, the agency not only stalled the aid, but imposed, quote, additional restrictions and requirements on how Puerto Rico could gain access to those funds. And moving on just beyond how much the U.S. has mistreated Puerto Rico over the years, they have also shown a history of ableism, especially towards the poor and minorities. Eugenics, which was common practice in the U.S. after World War II, was primarily targeted towards minorities and poor people. Quote, the overwhelming majority of victims were poor, guilty of only, quote, promiscuity or being on welfare rolls. Eugenics is defined as, or was viewed as, protecting society from the offspring of those individuals deemed inferior or dangerous: the poor, the disabled, the mentally ill, criminals, and people of color. And even today, ableism against Puerto Ricans in America still exists. And even as the island struggles with poverty, citizens with, quote, severe mental and physical problems in the U.S. territory receive $47 a month of aid, about a tenth of what people in the States get. And although it's generally viewed as a benefit for being a territory that the Puerto Ricans can move anywhere within the United States they want, that has had an impact on young people moving out of the island and leaving behind older and poorer people who are more dependent on social welfare programs that do not provide adequate benefits. And that brings us to the Biden administration's recent announcement that they will not be, or that they will defend a law that prevents Puerto Ricans from accessing the necessary benefits. And while they use the excuse that, we have to uphold the law even if we don't like it, there are examples of presidents not doing that, even President Biden's own former boss, President Obama. In February 2011, then Attorney General Eric Holder sent a letter to then House Speaker John Boehner, announcing the administration's intention not to defend the Defense of Marriage Act, which allowed states to discriminate against same-sex couples. Quote, however, the department in the past has declined to defend statutes despite the availability of professionally reasonable arguments, in part because the department does not consider every plausible argument to be a, quote, reasonable one. So, knowing that even in recent history, attorneys general and the Justice Departments have refused to defend statutes they view as unjust, why isn't Biden doing the same when he himself believes that this law is unjust and apparently wants Congress to overturn it? Well, it just history repeating itself once again as the U.S. continues not only its mistreatment of Puerto Ricans, but also its ableism towards them. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do the usual, like, comment, subscribe, all that. Click here to check out my last 2 videos. Follow me on social media, links below. I'll see y'all soon. Take care, everybody.